Governor Tate Reeves proclaims a state of emergency ahead of the landfall of Hurricane Delta. President Trump returns to the White House to support his actors' coronavirus diagnosis and hospital stay. A kidnapping plot busted by the FBI in Michigan. Find out details on this story and more. Your Take 30 News starts now. The state of Mississippi is bracing for yet another storm. Hurricane Delta is set to make landfall later on today as a Category 3 hurricane and could potentially do some damage as it passes through the south and more specifically the area.
In the Starkville area, we're expecting some gusty winds up to 30 to 40 miles per hour. We're expecting some rainfall, a few inches over the course of tonight through tomorrow, which could result in localized flash flooding. And we are expecting the possibility of a few tornadoes.
Tensions over the handling of COVID-19 in Michigan reached a scary level this week as a group of Michigan residents' protest turned to a potentially violent crime.
Shock. You know, it's disbelief. Like, how are we where we are at right now?
What can only be described as a nightmare situation. A kidnapping conspiracy was busted by the FBI this week. The target? Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. 13 men, 7 of which have ties to far right-wing white supremacist groups, have been arrested and charges are now being filed. The charges so far include conspiracy, kidnapping, and domestic terrorism, but they have yet to be indicted. The FBI foiled plans earlier this week when text messages leaked about their next moves. Houses were raided, finding the first 3 of the eventual 13 men. Governor Whitmer spoke on her experience over the last few days.
The FBI to announce state and federal charges against 13 members of 2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
Earlier this summer, armed militia members raided the House and Senate of Michigan, demanding the state to be reopened. Governor Whitmer was one of the first to begin shutdowns in the COVID-ridden state of Michigan. She's been criticized for contradictory behavior and not following guidelines.
This is probably something right now that is a microcosm of what's going on around the country. The governor spoke to this a little bit yesterday. This has been a hard summer for very obvious and tragic reasons. People are dying.
It is expected the 13 men will be indicted on their charges. President Trump returned to the White House on Tuesday. Take 30's Mal Conrad has the updates on his condition.
Dramatic scenes on the White House lawn as the president comes home from Walter Reed Hospital.
But I spent 4 days there, and I went in, I wasn't feeling so hot, and within a very short period of time, they gave me Regeneron. It's called Regeneron, and other things too, but I think this was the key.
Regeneron is the drug that Trump claims doctors used on him. It is in the final stages of testing by the FDA as a possible solution, as hydroxychloroquine has been failing recently. Some political analysts were extremely skeptical of his quick return to the Oval Office and the health impacts it has to Americans.
No, I really don't. I mean, look, call it an abundance of caution, whatever you want.
Not only was President Trump and First Lady Melania diagnosed with COVID, but White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany has tested positive as well. Stephen Miller, as well as the Joint Chiefs of Staff, are also in quarantine.
I'm feeling great. I'm having no symptoms. I'm very blessed to have a mild case or really just an asymptomatic case. My heart goes out to all of those who have been affected by this.
Navy Commander Sean Conley says the president has been showing no signs or symptoms of the disease since arriving back home. It is now known that President Trump had not been tested daily leading up to the original diagnosis. Any of those coming near President Trump in the White House are being told to suit up in full containment gear And if someone does come close, they will be forced into a 14-day quarantine and must provide multiple negative tests. The president remains in quarantine until he can provide multiple negative tests as well. There's a debate scheduled for next week, but he has stated that he will not participate in a virtual debate. In a video released on his Twitter, the president thanked his doctors and all frontline workers around the country.
All over the country, we have the greatest doctors in the world. We have the greatest nurses, the greatest first responders, law enforcement, by the way, incredible. Firefighters, everybody, they're just great. We have great people. This is a great country.
For Take 30 News, I'm Miles Conrad.
We will keep you updated on the president's health through our social media accounts at Take 30 News MSU. With President Trump testing positive with COVID-19 and talks of abandoning the second debate, MSU students disagree with the choice and remark of his contracting of the coronavirus. Coming up after the break, following last Friday's announcement of President Trump's getting COVID.
Others vertebral and spinal conditions. And as rewarding as our work often is, it can be frustrating at times. That's because brain and nervous system conditions are difficult to diagnose and treat, especially when they affect patients who can't talk. A while back, we saw a chance to start something special here, introducing innovative imaging to better understand brain and spinal cord diseases in cats and dogs. Having that type of information makes a substantial difference when developing treatment and surgical plans. It also aids in personalizing the rehabilitation process. The toughest part of our job comes when our patients are well enough to go home. As thrilled as we are to see them walk again, a big piece of our heart goes out the door when they leave.
The vice presidential debate of the 2020 election season was held on Wednesday in Salt Lake City, Utah. The two vice presidential candidates faced off to win the votes of viewers at home. Dalton Whitfield has the story.
The vice presidential debate was held Tuesday night. USA Today journalist Susan Page moderated the debate. This was the only vice presidential debate of the 2020 election season. Although not as combative as last week's debate, the vice presidential debate still didn't take long to get heated, as Senator Harris made sure she was able to speak.
Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I'm
speaking.
Appeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking. If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
The debate turned fiery when candidates were asked about the COVID-19 pandemic, and they gave their thoughts on who is to blame for the fallout from the virus.
Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country.
China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February.
The post-debate polling by CNN showed Senator Harris winning 59% to Vice President Pence's 38%, while Vice President Pence turned at 11th on Twitter. Meanwhile, the presidential debate scheduled for next Tuesday may be in jeopardy following calls for a virtual debate.
I heard that the commission a little while ago changed the debate style, and that's not acceptable to us.
You're not going to participate?
No, I'm not going to waste my time on a virtual debate. That's not what debating's all about. You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous. And then they cut you off whenever they want.
For more updates, check the Take 30 social media pages. With Take 30 News, I'm Dalton Whitfield.
The city of Starkville and Oktibbeha County both choose to keep the current mask mandate that has been in effect since April 28th. Even though Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves made the decision to end the statewide mask mandate.
Businesses in Starkville have been placed in unprecedented times with the coronavirus pandemic, along with being required to make sure all customers wear masks and social distance when inside their stores. With the city mask mandate remaining in effect, masks are going to be around in Starkville for the foreseeable future.
My feeling is if we think it'll help us, let's wear it. You know, it's not a big deal. I'm kind of used to it now. So, you know, if we think we can make this thing go away, why not wear it?
Masks were required for everyone that attended the Mississippi State football game last weekend or went to a local bar or restaurant. One area of town that usually sees large crowds on game day weekends is the Cotton District. The mask mandate was not seen to be very effective this past weekend in the district.
I live right here in the district, so whenever I drive home at night on the weekends or walk home, it's packed and I never see anybody in a mask.
According to the city of Starkville, all non-seated customers at bars and restaurants are required to wear masks, which includes the district. For Take 30 News, I'm David Smith.
After the break, learn more about fire safety tips for students living on and off campus.
The sense of place. We all have it, often grown from deep roots in small-town communities. At Mississippi State University, our Carl Small Town Center is strengthening these ties. With nearly 40 years of making a difference, we're revitalizing communities into welcoming places to work, live, and congregate. By weaving together the best pieces of our past with modern technology and amenities, we're creating the hometowns of the future. Places where lifetime memories can be made, where you have all the things you need, along with all the things you want. Through partnerships with our communities, we're identifying improvement opportunities, recommending paths forward, and creating the plans for a better tomorrow. Have you ever thought about what it would take to eliminate one of the most dreaded illnesses of the year? At Mississippi State University, we're dreaming big, fast on the heels of scientific discoveries that will lead to the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of flu and other illnesses. For researchers, the biggest challenge is keeping pace with viruses that are constantly evolving to become more contagious. But at Mississippi State, we have the upper hand. Our scientists are working with teams around the world to predict when and where new viruses will emerge, combining forces to create flu vaccines before epidemics actually hit. That's because, as a premier research university, we believe it is our responsibility to help improve the lives of those around us. And we're working hard to help create a world where the flu is something children will one day read about in history books.
Most often, fire safety education is geared toward young children. But here's what college students need to know about fire prevention in their dorms and apartments.
The Fire Marshal Division of the Fire Department is responsible for what we call public education. And public education is a wide range of things.
Dorms and other public buildings on campus are extremely scrutinized by fire codes, standards set by the State Fire Marshal's Office and by the Starkville Fire Department.
The building itself is extremely safe. It's got sprinkler systems, fire alarm systems, all that stuff is done for them. So if you live in a dorm, you don't necessarily have to worry about that kind of stuff.
If you do live in a dorm, as a student, you must be aware of the rules and policies set by Mississippi State University.
The biggest area that we're concerned about here in town isn't so much the dorms, the fraternities and sororities, as it is the rental properties.
Rental properties aren't scrutinized like buildings on MSU. The responsibility falls on the student to make sure their home is safe and has smoke detectors.
If there's a fire in your building or in your house and you're trapped, well, have you thought about how you're going to get out? And the second means of egress is your window.
One of the leading causes for fires among college-age students are open flames, just like this candle.
Another thing that's real common is cooking fires with college-age students. So, you know, they'll go out on a night on the town, so to speak. Maybe they've been drinking a little. They come back home for a midnight snack or something. They start cooking something on the stove, and they forget about it.
If you choose to burn a candle, make sure it's on a flat surface and can't catch a nearby curtain, drape, or other combustible object on fire. Nationally, Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated September 15th through October 15th. On the MSU campus, 2 departments are contributing to this festivity with a very special guest from Washington, D.C.
Hispanic Heritage Month honors the histories, cultures, and contributions of citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And in honor of this, Mississippi State University's Holmes Cultural Diversity Center and the Department of Classical and Modern Languages and Literatures hosted a poetry performance this past Wednesday with guest speaker Kike Aviles.
And the poetry event, we decided to do this because one of the Hispanic Heritage Month committee, who is a faculty member here, she had some connection with this poet. It's important for Hispanic Heritage Month because his poetry is mainly focusing on experiences of Latinx community in America.
However, due to COVID-19, the production of this event was conducted through WebEx to maintain safety precautions such as social distancing.
It's difficult because we can't interact with each other in person. So obviously, like having, let's say, Kike in-person event, and then if he shares his poetries in person, I think the impact is more effective. But I think a good thing is that I think because this is virtual event, he can join from DC. And then also this event, you don't have to be here on campus to join. So I think that's a good part of having a virtual event, just kind of connecting people from different locations.
Additional festivities will transpire via WebEx in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, such as the virtual Latin dance competition on October 14th at 4 p.m. For Take 30 News, I'm Erenisha Dukes.
For more information concerning upcoming events hosted by HCDC and LSA, visit LSA's Cowbell Connect page and LSA's Instagram page. Out of nearly 318 candidates, the World Food Program has been awarded the 101st Nobel Peace Prize for the organization's work in over 80 countries, providing assistance to nearly 100 million victims of hunger. Berit Reiss-Andersen, chair of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, was the one to make the announcement October 9th and gave their reasoning for the committee's choice.
For its efforts to combat hunger, for its contribution to bettering conditions for peace in conflict-affected areas, and for acting as a driving force in efforts to prevent the use of hunger as a weapon of war and conflict.
Of the United Nations and is currently the world's largest humanitarian organization dedicated to hunger and promoting food security. With a worldwide pandemic, the number of victims of hunger in the world has had a strong uptick as of late. This only served to solidify the WFP's efforts, with the organization stating, "Until the day we have a medical vaccine, food is the best vaccine against chaos." So, Miles, what can we expect from sports this week?
Thanks, Hannah. The Bulldogs are looking to turn their season around, and the Lakers are looking to win their first championship since 2010, and this one's for Kobe. Take 30 Sports is next.
When it comes to life on the coast, it's the world beneath the waves that supports the world above. So when an integral part of a delicate ecosystem disappears, economies on land are disrupted and livelihoods are lost. At Mississippi State University, we're aggressively confronting this issue on the Mississippi coast, where 90% of the local oyster population has vanished over the past decade due to circumstances both natural and man-made. In response, we're building computer models to simulate oyster movement and sustainability, models to determine strategic placement of artificial reefs to not only boost the dwindling food source, but to aid in coastal storm resilience and water filtration. It's a project that's paving the way for a healthier, cleaner coastline and a rejuvenated local economy. And for us here at MSU, that's more than just a good cause. It's one we can sink our teeth into. Flight. It's driven mankind's dreams for centuries. The ability to soar above the earth, to travel to faraway places, to connect distant points. Manned flights to the moon and space were once the stars for which we reached. Now, unmanned aircraft are the future. At Mississippi State University, our teams are developing unmatched unmanned aircraft systems for an array of critical applications. We're so good at it, the Federal Aviation Administration named MSU a Center of Excellence in the field, asking us to lead the team that's creating the operating regulations for unmanned aircraft systems worldwide. So essentially, we're writing the flight plan for an industry that is the future. Our work means better information, more opportunity, and limitless horizons for you. The sky really is the only limit.
COVID-19 has changed the way we do everything, including football. To help flatten the curve, the administration at MSU decided to have no tailgating this semester and reduce the capacity of Davis Wade Stadium to 25%. Although the experience at MSU's first home game against Arkansas was very different than past years, the sound of cowbells still lit up the stadium. And despite the enthusiastic crowd last week, it was a rough start to the home schedule at Davis Wade Stadium, both on the field and in the stands. The students were packed together like it was any other year. Holly Emery is at Davis Wade with information about social distancing in the student section.
Thank you, Miles. While players were inside warming up, fans were eagerly trying to get into the stadium. Stadium staff were working on putting X's down on both the pavement and the bleachers. However, students found it difficult to follow social distancing guidelines. Mississippi State's mascot posted this picture of him and the student section on Tuesday, which shows how students were spaced out by the third quarter. Although X's were placed on the bleachers to guide students, the excitement of the game caused people to move throughout the section. With the Texas A&M game being the next home game that's here in Davis Wade, Mississippi State officials are hoping students follow social distancing guidelines just a little more carefully. Back to you, Miles.
Well, it wouldn't be a Mississippi State football season if it wasn't a roller coaster. From knocking off the defending national champs to a week later, losing to a team who had not won an SEC game since 2017 when they beat the school up north. This week, the Air Raid travels to Lexington to face the Kentucky Wildcats, who have given the Dogs trouble in past seasons. That game kicks off at 6:30 p.m. this Saturday on the SEC Network. And now we go from state to Sunday as former Mississippi State teammates will go head-to-head in 3 NFL games on Sunday, including the NBC's primetime Sunday night football game. Some of the most recent defensive standouts at State start the day off at noon Central on CBS as the Kansas City Chiefs host the Las Vegas Raiders. Jonathan Abram, a 2019 first-round draft pick, and Willie Gay Jr., a second-round selection in 2020, highlight 5 former Bulldogs on the field. NBC's Sunday Night Football pits the Minnesota Vikings against the Seattle Seahawks veteran linebacker KJ Wright, who hosts rookie cornerback Cameron Dantzler, and that kickoff is set for 7:20 p.m. Hail State Athletics are staying busy this weekend as women's tennis is participating in the SEC Challenge both Saturday and Sunday at Alabama. The Mississippi State soccer team plays Sunday at 3 p.m. versus the LSU Tigers here in Starkville. That game is on the SEC Network. The NFL is experiencing a COVID spike, which has been delaying games and keeping big-name players like Cam Newton off the gridiron. But the NFL thinks this can be put to a stop and will start policing sidelines more. Coaches like Sean McVay, John Gruden, and Bruce Arians have been seen many times talking to officials and players without a mask. Starting this Sunday, teams can be penalized for these actions. After the break, Elizabeth will catch you up on everything you need to know in and around the entertainment world. Take 30 News will be right back.
When you're the best, everyone wants to see what you'll do next. At Mississippi State University, our team of world-class rocket engineers is venturing beyond boundaries, building rockets like none before. We're launching a new era of space exploration. We've developed cutting-edge technology that's helping us build a rocket that can travel at 4 times the speed of sound. Fast? Yes. But more importantly, revolutionary. For you and for a space program that produces many of the conveniences we enjoy today. We're shaping your life in ways you never dreamed. What's next? Watch us and see.
Welcome back to Take 30. I'm Elizabeth Jackson, and here are our top entertainment headlines. The music world lost one of its greatest this week as Eddie Van Halen passed away at the age of 65 due to complications from throat cancer. The Van Halen brothers started a few bands that would eventually become Van Halen. The group racked up over 2,100 shows over their 40-year history. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen.
I tell you, a Van Halen song never felt so hard to sing and play in my life.
It was hard.
It was.
It's very surreal right now, and it hasn't sunk in yet. But we love you, Eddie.
The Lab Rats improv comedy group's fall semester long form show. Well, that's all we have for the entertainment. Back to you, Hannah.
That's all we have time for this week. For extended coverage, follow our social media pages at Take 30 News MSU and Take 30's podcast every Monday on all of your favorite podcast hosts. Have a safe and healthy weekend. Good night from the MSU campus.